poisoning. Not to start the video on an unrelated note, but you know where I've been the past few days? That's right, food poisoning. I've been sick, laid up in bed, on the toilet, everywhere you can imagine. It's been kind of bad. I don't know where I got it from, but I've been sick the past few days. I'm healthy now. So let's go and jump into the video. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking about the top must-have legendary weapons for Season of the Chosen. We're only going to be going over weapons that were introduced in Season of the Chosen or reissued in some cases. I do videos like this all the time. I absolutely love weapons in Destiny. It's kind of weird, right? I like weapons in my looter shooter, so I make videos about them. I did one before Beyond Light, I did one after Beyond Light, and seeing as Season of the Chosen brought more weapons than Beyond Light did, I figured, well, now's the time for the video, especially seeing as I've been able to actually play with the new Iron Banner weapons. Well, the reissued Iron Banner weapons. So today's video is going to function a little bit like a top 10 list. However, in some of these spaces, I'm also going to have a secondary recommendation because the weapon may be similar or maybe easier to get or yada yada, just a point of interest. I think in total today, we're going to be going over 13 weapons in order from 10 all the way to 1. Like I said, some will be bundled in certain areas, so number 10 is going to have 2, number 1 will actually have 2 as well as number 8, just in case you were wondering. So let's waste no time, let's go ahead and jump into the video. We're going to start at number 10. We're going to go over all of these weapons, how to get them, and what their god rolls are, so you know what to look out for whenever you are wanting to farm these weapons. We're going to go and start off at number 10, and we're going to feature 2 rocket launchers here. We have the Royal Entry and the Code Duello. It is absolutely no secret that Season of the Chosen has implemented a rocket launcher meta, and this rocket launcher meta is definitely in its early stages, but rocket launchers are very, very prevalent. I believe I saw a clip not too long ago of Glad and his gang one-phasing Taniks with lasting impression rocket launchers, and that is why you want these rocket launchers specifically. The Royal Entry, the first one that we're going to talk about, is a precision frame, meaning that it has built-in auto tracking, and it can come with the role of auto-loading holster and lasting impression. Lasting impression, of course, basically sticks your rocket to the enemy, it sits there for a minute, and then it explodes and does big boy damage. This also has a pretty cool PvP role as well. In the first slot, you can get Impulse Amplifier, which gives your weapon even more velocity and gives you better reload speed, and you can put that with cluster bombs, and you have yourself a really, really good PvP rocket launcher in the form of the Royal Entry. Now, with the Code Duello, this thing right here is a high impact frame, so it's slow firing and high damage, so this is mainly if you're trying to do big boy DPS. You want to basically probably go with something like auto-loading holster or field prep. Field prep, of course, giving you more rockets and also allowing you to reload faster when you crouch, and then in the second slot, going with lasting impression for the big boy damage. Both of these rockets are really good in their own respect. However, Royal Entry is a bit more flexible, but Code Duello is for the big bosses that you'll end up facing in the PvE landscape. Both of these weapons are fantastic. Royal Entry coming from the Vanguard Strike playlist as a random drop, and Code Duello coming from the Battlegrounds as well as focused in the Umbral Engrams. Moving on over to number 9, we have a weapon that I have, but I don't have the roll on it, which makes it very special. I'm talking about the Sola's Scar Trials of Osiris sword. Now, this is a caster frame, meaning that it actually has a long ranged attack, very similar to the Temptation's hook, and this thing is so cool, man. It is the first sword to ever roll with chain reaction, and the way that chain reaction works on the sword is really cool. I'm going to show gameplay from Error's video not too long ago. His link will be in the description if you want to check him out. He's a content creator, but you can see that even normal sword swipes as well as the heavy attack actually causes chain reaction to proc, and it goes to multiple enemies and explodes them if they are in the area. This thing can also create Warmind cells of all things because it is a solar sword, and it is so cool and it's so fun, and it's like one of those legendary weapons that's so wacky that I just really wish that we had more of them. Having chain reaction on the sword is really cool, and if this thing ever became the 3-win reward for Trials of Osiris, I highly recommend hopping into it because this thing's playstyle is absolutely nutty, and it's something that I love about Bungie's weapon design. Moving on over from the Sola Scar, we have the third Axiom as well as the time-worn Spire pulse rifles. Now, the third Axiom, this thing actually took me by surprise. It is an adaptive frame pulse rifle. You can get this from the Vanguard Strike playlist at the end. Of course, it is an arc pulse rifle, so if you're looking for a pulse to use in Grandmasters or Master Nightfalls that has the arc element, this might be one that you want to keep your eyes out for. Of course, taking a look at the rolls on this weapon, in the first slot, you can get things like Rangefinder, as well as Feeding Frenzy, Surplus, even stuff like Moving Target Quick Draw for PvP. In the second slot, you have things like Multi-Kill Clip, Rampage, and One for All, as well as Head Seeker if that's your thing. I really like this thing specifically in PvP. I never realized how fun adaptive frame pulse rifles are until I got this bad boy, and my roll on this thing is absolutely horrendous. It has nothing really good at all on it for PvP, and I was still slapping people around with this thing. If you are mainly a PvE guy and you want to use this for Nightfalls, Surplus is always fine, Feeding Frenzy is always fine, Rangefinder could be pretty good for Grandmasters if you're trying to stay away from the enemy and pop their shields from afar. For the second perk slot, you know, I love One for All. One for All is one of my favorites. Disruption Break is very, very good for those actual Grandmasters and those Masters. If you're looking for something like PvP, of course, Moving Target, Quick Draw, both of those are really cool. Even Rangefinder, again, is a very good perk to have as well. And for the second slot, Rampage, I mean, it's always nice to get extra damage, and with how fast you can shoot this thing, how quickly you can melt people, Rampage is nice. You know, getting extra damage is nice, and I really, really, really want a roll of probably Rangefinder Rampage on mine, but I know that most people would recommend Quick Draw so that you could swap on over to, let's say, like an Astral Horizon, just in case somebody gets close. But this thing right here is really cool. Of course, bundled with it, I have the time-worn Spire, the rapid fire frame pulse rifle. I don't necessarily recommend this thing for PvE because it doesn't have an element, but if you are looking for a kinetic, you can get this thing with like Feeding Frenzy, One for All. That's probably the role that I would go for. For PvP, probably Quick Draw Rampage. I love having actual damaging perks on these weapons. These things shoot really, really quickly, these rapid fire frames, and being able to shoot really quickly and having, you know, Rampage, a damage bonus, is very, very nice. And by the way, you can get Time-Worn Spire from Iron Banner. Now moving on over from those pulse rifles, we have the Brass Attack Sidearm, which is an aggressive burst, hard-hitting 2-burst fire sidearm. Basically, I believe this is the first of its kind in the elemental slot, you know, in the energy slot. The last time that we saw a sidearm that was a 2-burst like this, it was the Breachlight, which was from Season of the Dawn. This one is basically a void Breachlight, and it's really cool. As far as PvE is concerned, something like Feeding Frenzy Rampage, Feeding Frenzy One for All is very nice. Even Frenzy is a fantastic damaging perk. Basically says that as long as you were in the heat of combat, you were going to be getting a damage bonus for the entirety of the time that you were there. As far as PvP is concerned, probably something like Surplus, Killing Wind, Rapid Hit, any of those is going to be very nice, as well as probably Rampage in that second slot. I absolutely love any kind of 2-burst or 3-burst sidearm in PvE. They're absolutely a blast to use, and the Brass Attacks is no exception. This thing is really fun to use, very effective, and I highly recommend getting your hands on it. Focus this bad boy in the engrams, get the regular one out of the season pass, give it for a spin, and I'm sure that you'll definitely enjoy it. Now moving on over from the Brass Attacks, we have the Frozen Orbit Energy Aggressive Frame Sniper Rifle. This bad boy drops from Crucible matches. Any Crucible matches will do, except for Trials of Osiris for some weird reason. This bad boy is a void damaging sniper rifle, and it's pretty nice. It is pretty nice for both PvP and PvE. I'm just gonna go ahead and lay down the PvE roll. Triple tap, Vorpal, maybe high impact reserves if you don't get Vorpal. I love triple tap sniper rifles, especially if they're aggressive frame. I love things like Succession as well, which is a kinetic aggressive frame, and having one in the actual elemental slot and the energy slot gives it so much usability for just any content that you play, but mainly Masters and Grandmaster Nightfalls, which are something that I personally really like. If you want to pop these void shields from far away, possibly even one-tapping them or doing really good sustain damage, then this thing right here is really good. Triple tap Vorpal or triple tap high impact, very, very nice. Now, for the PvP role, this thing is also very nasty in PvP, something like moving target opening shot, snapshot, or quick draw. Both of those, you know, perks, or all three of those perks actually in the final slot are very, very good. So any of those that you get, you know, are very nice, but they also can very much depend on your kind of preference. So quick draw, snapshot, opening shot, take your pick, but in the first slot, probably something like moving target is what you want to use. Also, did I mention that Frozen Orbit uses the weapon model of another weapon back in Destiny 1? I believe it was Her Benevolence. I believe, maybe I'm wrong. But this thing gives me massive D1 vibes, and that's always a bonus. I absolutely love the nostalgic weapon design of Destiny 1, and I love how simplistic the sniper rifle looks, all the while being very useful for all game modes. It's just, it's the perfect sniper rifle. Play some Crucible, try to get at the drop, and hopefully pray to RNGesus that you get a good roll on it. Now, moving on over from the Frozen Orbit, we go into the top 5 of today's video, the Palindrome Legendary Hand Cannon. This bad boy is an adaptive frame, meaning that it has a round per minute of 140, and it comes with void damage. You can get this bad boy from the Nightfalls. It is a Nightfall specific weapon. I believe the first time that it started dropping was the Arms Dealer. However, if these weapons are on a weekly rotation, then it seems that this season it's going to drop from the Arms Dealer as well as the Saber Strike, which is coming up at reset tomorrow. Assuming that they are on a, you know, kind of rotation and they drop 2 Nightfalls per week, that's probably where you're going to see the Palindrome dropping from. But this bad boy, it's really good, PvE and PvP. If you want a really good void hand cannon, something again for Grandmasters and Master Nightfalls, get this bad boy with Overflow, Rampage, or Overflow One for All. You would just, you can't go wrong. You literally can't go wrong. If you're talking about for PvP, get something like Overflow Rangefinder or a Quick Draw Rangefinder. I prefer to use this bad boy in PvP. Whenever I'm not using 120s, if I ever want to switch things up, pull out the Palindrome and I can have a blast with it. But it also has very, very good usability in the PvE landscape. There's plenty of void shields out there. Why don't you use the right weapon for the job and pick yourself up a Palindrome? Moving on over from the Palindrome, we have the number 4 spot going to the Salvager's Salvo grenade launcher. Now this weapon right here, of course, is practically given to everybody. You get a quest from Banshee whenever you start the season, and he basically says, hey, go do a bunch of stuff, and then I'll give you this thing. And yeah, it's a pretty good grenade launcher. It's one of the best in the game. It's very, very flexible. This thing comes with spike grenades. It also has, you know, 4 total perks, 2 in each slot. You have Ambitious Assassin, Demolitionist, and Vorpal Chain Reaction. I'm just gonna tell you, man. I'm just gonna tell you. Ambitious Assassin, Chain Reaction, you're gonna have an absolute, no pun intended, blast using this grenade launcher. I mean, I think everyone has it by now. I don't really need to explain what the Salvager Salvo is, but I mean, we're doing legendary weapons, so I figured I'd mention it. This weapon right here, I love it so much more than Adored. I mean, mainly PV, you know, P players are gonna get more use out of Adored. I mainly play PvE, and this thing right here, it speaks to me on a spiritual level. Ambitious Assassin Chain Reaction is almost so much fun, it feels illegal. Very much reminiscent of the Sola Scar sword that we talked about earlier. Just dumb fun put into a legendary weapon, and I love it. Moving on over from the Salvo, we have the top 3. Starting off at number 3, we have the Messenger. Yes, this is the high impact frame pulse rifle that comes from Trials of Osiris. And honestly, this thing has some really, really, really good usability in both PvE and PvP. Make this bad boy your PvE kinetic damage, you know, pulse rifle if you can, instead of the Time Worn Spire, because it comes with a perk known as Desperado. Okay, reloading after a precision final blow increases your rate of fire. This thing is a high impact frame, so it shoots slowly but does high damage. With this thing, it basically turns it into a rapid fire frame while doing the damage of a high impact frame. It's absolutely crazy. Having Desperado it's not a must on this thing, but it's basically what makes this thing stand out. For PvE, Outlaw Desperado or Rapid Hit Desperado is very good. For PvP, it really doesn't matter. As long as you have Desperado, the first perk slot is whatever you want, okay? But mainly, you probably want to go with Outlaw because reloading is what activates Desperado, so you want to make sure that you can reload quickly. So either Outlaw or Rapid Hit, those are going to be your two options paired with Desperado. This thing right here, I don't really need to talk about it that much. I don't have gameplay of it. I have Stars and Shadow gameplay in the background because your boy never picked one up because I'm an idiot and I was busy that weekend, okay? My fault. But it is a really good pulse rifle. Definitely pick this thing up if you can. Moving on over to the number 2 spot. We have the submachine gun that took the game by storm, the extraordinary Rendition. This thing claps, ladies and gentlemen. An aggressive frame SMG, 750 RPM. Taking a look at the perks. Overflow, one for all. Overflow, rampage. Overflow, multi-kill clip. I mean, it's got no reason being this nasty. You can also have surplus if you want. If you're doing PvP, Zen Moment's really nice. Tap the trigger is good, but if you can control your actual weapon handling, then go Rampage. And did I mention that this thing also has Frenzy on it? Frenzy for PvE players. I mean, I don't need to say anything about this submachine gun other than it's goated. And if you're not farming one out right now, then take your ass on over to the Umbral Decoder and start getting some. I still don't have the God roll, so I need to do that. But this thing right here, absolutely nasty. It is the pinnacle of SMGs in PvE in the kinetic slot. Really, really, really good. I don't really need to say much else. Now moving on over to the number 1 spot. The number 1 must-have legendary weapon in Season of the Chosen. We got 2. Igneous Hammer and Bottom Dollar. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a 120 round per minute meta in PvP. And if you don't have a good 120 RPM hand cannon, then you might be getting steamrolled. Now, you don't need a 120 RPM. Like I said earlier, I was using Palindrome, and, you don't have to use 120s. 140s definitely compete, as well as things like the Messenger, and, there's a ton of weapons, actually, that are being used in PvP, but mainly, it's the 120s. And, man, I got an Adept Igneous Hammer the other day, whenever it was available from the Flawless Chest. Rapid Hit, as well as Rampage, and man, it is disgusting. It is nasty, ladies and gentlemen. This thing is disgusting. Of course, comes from Trials of Osiris. It has an Adept version as well. But whenever this thing becomes the 3-win reward, definitely get your weekly bounty so you're guaranteed to get at the drop. It's really good. Looking at the rolls, we got things like Rapid Hit, Outlaw, as well as Quick Draw, Killing Win in the first slot. In the second slot, Rampage, One for All, Snapshot, Moving Target. Man, this thing cannot be any better than it already is. It has the best stats of any 120 in the game. As far as PvP is concerned, Rapid Hit, Rampage, Killing Win, Rampage, Quick Draw, Rampage, Outlaw, Rampage. Any of those are good. As far as PvE is concerned, Outlaw, Rampage is fine. Maybe One for All if you have something like Extended Mag. Rapid Hit, Rampage is also really good. It's just, this thing is really, really, really nice. It's solar, so if you do need it for GMs or anything, I mean, it's got some nasty range on it. It can actually max out at range, so it's pretty good. Of course, the secondary option to this, and the very good competitor to this, is the Bottom Dollar, which is a randomly dropped the 120 from the Gambit playlist. The only problem with this bad boy, if you look at the perks, is it drops with a lot of perks, so your chances of getting what you want are a little rare. But as far as this weapon is concerned, what you want to go with, Rapid Hit Rampage is good, Outlaw Rampage is good, Killing Win Rampage is good, Rangefinder Rampage, you guessed it, it's pretty good. Whenever it comes to 120s, I try not to get a 120 without a damage perk, because 2-tapping with these things is just, it's so good. Basically, to me, the entire purpose of a 120 is the ability to 2-tap people in the Crucible, so definitely go for Rampage if you can. Rampage is very, very nice, and ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it for the video. The top 10 or the top must-have legendary weapons in Season of the Chosen. We went over a total of 13 in a top 10 list fashion. I hope you guys did enjoy this style of video. I love doing these videos. I love doing the research and playing around with these weapons, trying them out, and then making these videos for you guys is basically your one-stop shop on everything loot related in Destiny. Absolutely love every single one of the guns that we talked about in today's video. But guys, let me know what you think. Do you have any of the weapons listed in today's video? Do you have any of the god rolls listed in today's video? If you have Sola's Scars god roll, by the way, if you have chain reaction on that sword, I'm literally gonna beat your ass because I still don't have it, and I would absolutely love to have it. But guys, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you could and you made it to this point of the video, maybe leave a subscription. I would absolutely love to have you on the channel. Maybe get to know you on Twitter, or maybe even twitch.tv/demonjoefrance if that's your thing. But guys, that's it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.